I think it's a danger for us not to remember where we came from.
Take back!
The fight is perpetual. It's always going to be there.
They are taking actions which will have the clear effect of pushing our union out of strike.
When you take one of us on,
We will not stand for it.
you take all of us on.
So my question to you is, do you want to say?
I pledge to keep working with your leadership.
Not only do you get a say, but you get backup.
We can move mountains by sticking together.
Today,
They've changed the face of care in the state. Now I think it's about how do we continue to harness this power that hundreds of thousands of workers, they've built this through their union. And now the current leaders get to really think about where do we go next.
People like an underdog who finally rears its head and says, I'm going to fight back.
In your respective groups and begin the march for freedom now.
For generations, union jobs have been the gateway to the middle class, a beacon of hope for workers and their families. But it's not just about paychecks.
Report our compensation.
It's about civil rights, intertwined with economic rights.
Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. understood this synergy. One cannot thrive without the other. In 1968, Dr. King stood alongside Memphis sanitation workers and their picket signs, demanding dignity and safety.
Tonight, that whenever you are engaged in work that serves humanity and is for the building of humanity, it has dignity and it has worth.
Labor movements persistently challenge bigotry, discrimination, and inequality, both within workplaces and across our communities. Here in Oregon, SEIU 503 carries forward this torch. Our journey began in 1943 as the Oregon State Employees Association. Back then, public workers united to advocate for themselves. Fast forward to 1973, the Public Employee Collective Bargaining Act granted public employees the right to form unions. OCA transformed into the Oregon Public Employees Union and later affiliated with the Service Employees International Union.
You think you're going to be part of one of the biggest, most amazing fight you could ever join.
Together, we champion workers' rights, from state agencies to private sectors. Our union rarely resorts to strikes, but when we do, history takes notice. On that fateful September 16, 1987, Oregon state workers embarked on a 9-day rolling strike, a seismic event that would redefine labor rights, the stakes, pay, benefits, and gender equity.
17,000 state workers, members of the state's largest employees union, are a step closer to going on strike tonight.
On the verge of going on strike, negotiations have just broken off.
We knew taking a stand as a union, as workers, was critical in changing our relationship with the state.
They are not dealing with us in a straightforward manner. They are taking actions which will have the clear effect of pushing our union out on strike.
We had this reputation as a tea and crumpet union, and we weren't going to be that union anymore. All of the studies showed that we were way behind the private market, but it was really a matter of priorities. And Alice was firm on that. She said, you know, if you have to lay people off, but we are not going to nickel and dime state employees.
So I hired a person named Michael Krivosh.
Michael outlined and laid out a strategy for the 87 rolling strike. And I got excited about it because it was so good.
And back to our top news story this morning.
In Oregon, a public employees union is striking various state agencies.
Well, at this point, it's hard to say exactly how many employees will not show up for work today.
1 hour from now, history will be made in Oregon. The state will be hit with its first major public employee strike.
What are we doing? We're gonna strike! All right. Who are we gonna strike? We're gonna strike the state!
I knew that was a winning strategy. I knew it was a winning thing to do.
It's a strategic strike. Workers will picket different agencies every 3 days.
They can strike for 48 hours or a week or something in one place, then send their workers back to work and go someplace else.
Employees walk out. The state mental hospital had 68% walkout. Another area of government targeted was the Department of Revenue.
The rolling strike is a euphemism for chaos. And we aren't going to permit chaos.
For them, it was complete chaos. For us, it was highly organized and orchestrated. The state was totally floored. They had no idea what we were doing.
It was just exhilarating. I think it was the first time as a union we all felt our strength.
And they're not willing to give it to us.
We just don't have any more money to offer.
He's stubborn. He doesn't want to spend more money.
We were out for 9 days. The energy was just so crazy, so exciting.
What did we get? Contract!
State employees went back to work today, ending 9 days of a rolling strike that affected all of the state agencies.
Public employees returned to work this morning following yesterday's strike settlement.
We won a lot. The final settlement was like $9 million more than what we were offered before we went out on strike.
We're very comfortable with the package that we've agreed to.
We got a very significant pay equity settlement. We won on contracting out. And the workers struck in such high numbers, it totally changed our relationship with the state. And that was clear from the first day of the strike.
And of course, the legislature passed a law saying that there could be no rolling strike. So we knew we were doing something right.
Always know where you are. And it's hard for you to know where you are if you don't what first? Know where you came from. And if you know where you came from and you know where you are, then maybe you can plot a course for where you're going. And that's why I think knowing our history is so vitally important.
The workplace is a different place today, and we can all thank our labor unions.
And what about in Oregon?
Especially in Oregon.
Never be the same! Never be the same! In 1984, there were delegates who were told to sit down and be quiet on the convention floor.
Never again.
Never again.
Never again.
As the dawn of 1995 broke, the Oregon State Workers Union was on the cusp of a defining moment.
A lot of good things continue to happen in the labor movement.
It was a time when unity and collective action were poised to reshape the landscape of labor rights in Oregon, setting the stage for a historic stand that would echo through the halls of history. In the spring of '95, Oregon state workers stood their ground against a 6% pay cut and bargaining restrictions.
The '95 strike was the culmination of almost 5 years of direct attacks on worker pensions.
Do you accept a 6% salary reduction in July?
There's screams and whatever, that the world is falling, the sky is falling. It's just a bunch of baloney. You know, we're just trying to do what's reasonable and what's best for all Oregonians.
Bob Tiernan has focused his attacks on public employees, and we felt that it was important that our message be heard as well.
We were set to lose 6% of our income with no ability to negotiate replacement wages in the future.
In the 80s, we were untested, there was a lot more uncertainty.
And state workers say they want respect.
We make a difference, and the question is, can they work without us? No, they can't. That's why we deserve it, because they cannot run this business without us. We are tied in, we are married together.
It became clear that unless we took a stand, we weren't going to get this resolved.
Oregon's public employees voted tonight to strike.
If you want to have power in the workplace, you have very little power if you're by yourself.
When do we want it?
But if you have other people standing with you, there's no other way to get it in the workplace except by having a union.
Strike Back 95.
Why do you say that with a smile?
Because these folks went after our pensions.
From Sky 8, you can see the march everyone's talking about in Salem.
We had like a 97% participation rate in the strike.
The organizers appeared excited over the turnout.
We want our 6.5% back.
We hope the legislature will pay attention.
It was the biggest gathering they'd had on the Capitol Mall since the Vietnam War.
We walked down this huge aisle and they were all chanting. When we got up to the mall and turned around and looked down, there's like 17,000 red shirts in that mall. I was fired up.
Stand united. Our fight is not over.
And then the bomb threat.
Workers get a raise. Oklahoma City's going to happen again, and I guarantee it will happen again.
I still get upset when I hear that because it was so frightening to know that there were people out there who were willing to exert violence on our people on the picket lines. I really felt a sense of responsibility for their safety.
In light of what happened in Oklahoma City, we obviously take that much more seriously than we might have had it occurred before that incident.
It was a sense of helplessness because it was an anonymous call.
100 striking workers stage a sit-in at the governor's office.
At this point, we're waiting for the governor's call.
Calling themselves the Flying Squadron 101, 101 OPEU members came into the governor's ceremonial office, sat down, and refused to leave.
The governor, he was just not paying any attention to us. In fact, when we did that sit-in, he was at some function over on the coast.
Governor, where are you?
I think people here are prepared to spend Mother's Day here.
Here in the governor's office or out front?
No, here in the governor's office.
And then the governor finally did show up, and he was an arrogant asshole.
Now, if you want to spend the weekend in my office, I'm not going to have you thrown out. But if you are as committed as I am to finding a fair and equitable resolution to this contract dispute, then you will focus your attention across the bargaining table.
Well, we were happy that we got him to come back from the coast. He said, if you're as committed as we are, well, we've been at the bargaining table for I don't know how many months.
OPEU! OPEU!
Today's agreement prompted a chorus of cheers, but some genuine relief.
Eventually, we did get to a settlement.
It's not because of, fancy maneuvers at the bargaining table or the generosity of the state of Oregon. It's because our workers got every dollar that we've negotiated in this settlement.
People felt that sense of unity and that we were going to win, and we did. In the end, we won it in the courts, and we won across the table, too.
I've had the opportunity to meet so many workers, and through their union, they get to say things they never get to say. I had this conversation with a steward recently, and I asked her for when she felt powerful. And she said, when I became a steward, I went into a meeting with my boss and talked about the contract. And for the first time, I felt like I was heard. Before, I never felt like I was listened to. I never felt like I could be seen. But when I had the contract to back me up and I understood what it said, I felt powerful.
My first voice that I ever had came out of SEIU, meeting with our members, representing them.
The thing that makes me most proud, I get goosebumps when I think about it, is seeing people realize their power and ability to affect change. Affecting change, like saying, hey, this move, that's power.
Oh, good afternoon. You're up.
A pivotal moment in 1999 led to a bold move by union leaders. They recognized that the workforce of the future would include more contingent and privatized roles.
Home care actually was first developed as a Medicaid program in Oregon.
Almost everybody says, please don't send me to a nursing home. And the irony is that home care services are hugely less expensive than nursing home care, and people get to stay in their homes. What the state had done years earlier was to create a home care program, but to carve these workers out of state service.
They think we're a glorified babysitter. They think we're a glorified housekeeper. I've even been called lesser things than that.
They did not get workers' comp benefits, health care benefits, pensions, overtime pay. They got nothing.
It was a program that was designed to save the state a lot of money.
The state was constantly saying that we were just domestic employees.
We do this work because we love it and we love the people, and that's our life.
And they're good at it.
We have a lot of fun shopping. We have a good time.
Yes, we do. She gets the wheelchair and away we go.
Yeah, away we go.
They couldn't bargain with us, so there was no point in us making a union because we had nobody to bargain with. We couldn't go in and bargain with each consumer individually.
And they totally got the need for a union and wanted a union. And I remember being on a treadmill at an SEIU meeting, before the meeting, reading this polling data and thinking, wow, we can do this in Oregon. And we have political strength to put it on the ballot.
I have no health care and no ability to get health care because I don't make enough to pay for my own.
There were a lot of incentives for home care workers to join, and they also understood they needed to be politically active. It was starting from scratch.
Bring dignity home! Bring dignity home!
I know health insurance is a big issue in my life.
There's no pension, there's no medical, there's nothing.
These were people that had nothing to lose and everything to gain. They were excited to have a voice. So we had to pass a ballot measure to give them the right to bargain, and then we had to create leadership within the union.
We're 12,000 strong, and we can have meetings and get together, support each other, lift each other up, and we find each other's talents.
That's Karen Thompson, and she was a fabulous woman.
She was the first president of the Home Care Local, and she was just the most amazing leader.
Home care workers will have an opportunity to participate in an historic election this month to improve the quality of care for our clients.
The first couple of years was mainly just educating people because pretty much nobody knew home care. That's why we would always say invisible no more and bring dignity home.
SEIU, SEIU, SEIU. When we put the ballot measure on for home care workers, ballot measure 99, it was us really doing something through the ballot for the first time to build power.
Every county in Oregon supported it. We won.
Oregon Measure 99 was on the ballot in Oregon on November 7, 2000. Shortly after the bill was signed into law, home care workers sat across the table from state management and negotiated their very first contract with key protections.
To keep working with your leadership to bring organizing rights and benefits to our healthcare workers in this state.
By 2004, they had health care, workers' comp, and tax withholdings. Their ongoing advocacy has achieved significant improvements.
SEIU gave me responsibility. It made me look at myself. And also, it was just about time I made a change. And from that point on, taking on leadership roles and having a voice and exercising it and knowing when to exercise it, it has literally changed, I want to say, the trajectory of my life. There's nothing I'm more proud of than being a member of SEIU.
The strikes of the 80s and 90s were pivotal moments in the union's history, demonstrating the power of collective action.
Because this is the fight to recognize our union at Perry Center for Children.
The organization of home care workers further strengthened the union's resolve and capacity to advocate for worker rights. Since then, the union continued to play a crucial role in empowering workers by uniting them to build collective power and ensuring they have a voice on the job.
About the scalebacks on public services.
And that was really the story. We could be defensive and we could win by building power together. That also made us realize that we could use that power to be offensive. As we went into 2009, the legislature was looking at massive cuts to services. And we had the lowest corporate minimum tax in the country. Some of the richest people in our state didn't pay their fair share. And so they passed a corporate minimum tax increase. We hadn't passed a tax increase in Oregon on the ballot in 40 years. And what we learned was that we needed to be in a conversation, not just about taxes, but also about what those taxes meant for people. After 2010, we were able to pass $1 billion worth of revenue that went into schools that have helped stabilize our budget. And then COVID hit and everything shut down. But the reality is our workers did not.
Our workers worked through this pandemic, helping keep the university open.
It was just a continual fight to make sure that the voices of these workers were seen and heard.
Because in a lot of workplaces, both in hospitals and other healthcare settings, our members didn't have proper PPE.
We were sending out personal protective equipment to workers where we could. We were able to both be active.
It is essential workers. It is you all who have masked up. Vote yes for care.
But also pass the policy changes through the employers and through the state that were needed to protect essential workers. And now we're seeing a huge increase in how people support labor unions.
I think it's a great platform for marginalized people, people of color.
We don't get it! Shut it down! Follow me!
I truly believe that, at least for me, it was an access of empowerment that, one, I didn't realize, but two, was more accessible than I realized.
Through him, I've met a lot of very interesting people. It gave me purpose. It gave me something to really show the world that, you know, there's a whole group of us out there that are struggling, and we all need somebody to be able to hug and pat each other on the back and lift each other up.
What do we want? Contract!
It's transformative to see and know that any work that I get to do on a daily basis makes someone else feel powerful where before they felt powerless.
Living a life, a fulfilling life, should be the aim for all of us. And I've been able to do that with the union in a large sense of the word.
I repeat, courageous trade union leader Alice Dale for our International Executive Board.
I think whether it was standing up for women, whether it was standing up for gays and lesbians, taking a stand on rollbacks, getting collective bargaining rights for home care workers.
The governor needs to retract.
And no individual worker is going to suffer major economic loss.
He wants money in the e-board so he can give it to businesses who want to relocate in Oregon. Well, you know, I'm sorry. I mean, I think if you run a service industry, you can't treat your workers as the bottom of the barrel. They're the ones who carry the weight.
We were able to take on fights and win. On fights that made a huge difference in people's lives.